Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. We'll get started in just a couple of minutes. We're working on admitting everyone who is currently in the waiting room. So just give us about 60 more seconds. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We have some really great content coming up over the next 30 minutes or so. This is our advocacy training series, and in this next half hour to 45 minutes, we're going to talk about messaging and how you can segment your audiences with specific messages to hopefully get those policy wins that you are aiming to get. Before we dive in and I introduce you to everyone, I want to just do a little bit of welcome and housekeeping. Here are a few notes for you. Pardon me while I read them off to you. The meeting is being recorded. The recording will be emailed to each of you once this presentation is over, along with slides and other materials. We'll be taking questions in the chat today, so feel free to put any questions or comments that you have in the chat to everyone, not just the person you are trying to reach. That way we can all see them and ask the presenters the questions that you might have. We will try to address all of the comments and questions before our training ends today. Now, if you need any kind of technical support for the meeting today, ping tech support. You'll see a picture of the wonderful Andrea. She's here to help you with any tech questions that may come up. We ask that everyone mute their microphones, and you can also feel free to turn off your camera unless you would like to be on camera. We have closed captioning available during the meeting. You can turn that on in the menu bar, and then the recording will also be sent with some closed captioning for you. Now, we very much value feedback. It's how we shape all of these trainings. It's how we improve and grow. And so at the very end, we will be sending you out an evaluation. We urge you to just take the couple of minutes, fill it out, let us know what you really think. That way we know how to improve on these and make sure that you're spending your time in a valuable way. Lastly, we ask that all participants have respect and allow grace for one another. Please experience this training how you learn best, and let us know if there's anything we can do to help you and improve your experience. So I know some of you, I've seen some of you on calls or I've worked with some of you. I'm Tara, for those of you who don't know me. I am the Field Media Advocacy Lead for Tobacco Endgame. And I'm going to be your host today as we dive into segmenting messaging for your specific audiences. So before we dive in, I want to just kind of let you know what you can expect. So we've got 45 minutes. We're going to try to keep it a little less than that. We know everyone is really busy as you're ramping up for sessions that will be beginning in the new year. And so our goal today is really that all of you walk away understanding the importance of incorporating audience values and priorities into the messaging that you're creating, and realizing and recognizing that while your goal may be the same, the messaging that you put out there to different audiences may need to vary. So I'm going to start our conversation today just talking a little bit about how to identify those different audiences and what goes into messaging, and then I'm going to kick it over to two field experts who will provide insights into how tailored messaging has helped them pass policy, mobilize advocates, and raise that critical funding that they so need in order to pass the policies that really make a big difference. So you will be hearing from two wonderful advocates. They are both Voices for Healthy Kids grantees. Up first, we'll hear from Adrienne Udarbe. Adrienne is the Executive Director of Pinnacle Prevention, an Arizona-based nonprofit organization dedicated to growing healthy families and communities by inspiring and advancing a healthy food system and opportunities for active living. Adrienne is a registered dietitian nutritionist and has received numerous national and state recognitions as a nutrition leader. She's a social innovator fueled by a passion for advocacy and good food. You love good food. She's definitely got a lot in common with you because I know I certainly love good food. Her career has been dedicated to prevention work with over a decade of experience working for government, nonprofits, and healthcare groups. And then after we hear from Adrienne, we're going to toss it over to Daithi. Daithi Wolfe is an early education policy analyst at Kids Forward. It's a nonprofit dedicated to inspiring action and promoting access for opportunity for every kid, every family, and every community in Wisconsin. In his work, Daithi advocates for effective, long-lasting solutions that break down barriers to success for children and families in Wisconsin. He brings nearly 2 decades of teaching and education experience to that role. I'll put both of their contact information into the chat in case you want to follow up with them afterwards. But let's dive into messaging. Just a quick refresher for everyone out there. Your message, while it is, yes, it is about helping pass the policy that you want to see implemented, it's also about the audience. If you don't reach your audience, it doesn't matter how important your mission is. It doesn't matter how much you care about it, how much time and energy you put into it. If you do not reach your audience and create a meaningful message for them, you've lost the game. So the whole idea is to really connect with the people you're talking to, whether it's one person or 100. And so a couple of questions to ask yourself before you even start crafting your message for those different audiences is, we care about these issues, but why does the general public care? Or why does the lawmaker care? Or why do our advocates care? Then you need to think about the urgency. Urgency is always important, especially when talking to lawmakers who are very busy or journalists who are getting lots of competing press releases in their inboxes every day. So why do we care now? How can we link our message to that urgent news peg that's happening now? And then lastly, we need the audience to do something, right? We don't want them to just absorb our message and then go about their day. So how can they help? How can they join the cause? How can they take action? So finding a way for your audience to get involved is a really great way to hand over power to them, but also make sure those policies that you're working for get passed. Lastly, trying to find common ground with your specific audience. You'll hear from both Daithi and Adrienne, who will talk a little bit about how they have managed to connect with their specific audiences, but thinking about, for example, passing a sugary drink policy. If you're talking to you want to talk about, the negative health consequences associated with sugary drinks. But maybe if you're talking to a budget committee or a finance committee, you might want to talk about the revenue drink policy. You're still working to pass the same policy depending on your audience. A couple of other things to keep in mind. As you're crafting that message, these are the 5 elements that your message should have. With every story, try to identify the problem. Too many kids are drinking too many sugary drinks. The solution, reduce sugary drink consumption. The ask, support our policy to implement a sugary drink tax in our town. The urgency, well, the obesity epidemic is out of control. When paired with COVID, we worry about people really getting sick and succumbing to those comorbidities. And so it's urgent that we take action now. And the hope is, that all kids can grow up healthy and achieve their fullest potential. So those are a couple of ideas to help you get started when you are creating those messages. And so I encourage you, as we're walking through our training today, think about some of the messages maybe that you might be working on in the upcoming legislative session, or messages that you might be working on to mobilize advocates for, like for example, in February, it's Heart Month. And that'll just help it relate and make it much more relevant to you. And lastly, this is a tool that I use. It's been really helpful in not only creating those compelling messages, but keeping track of who is going to tell them. So the one on top, the graph on top, it's my spokesperson list. And I've got all kinds of columns listed, including name, where my person's located, whether or not they've had training. This is a good tracker that I'll share with you after the training. You can customize it, make it your own, but this will help you figure out where are your spokespeople located when you need someone to talk to media or when you need someone to go give testimony. Now, there is some sensitive info on here, like age and race. Why are they on here? Well, because we want to make sure we have a diverse group of spokespeople who can go and talk to the issues that we're working on. So, we want to make sure we've got, young people and middle-aged people and maybe seniors as well. And so including an age just helps you keep track of who do I have and who do I need to get. Same thing with race and ethnicity. You want to make sure your spokespeople represent the audiences that you're talking to. And so this is a nice way to track that. Now, when it comes to tracking your audience, you can see the one on the bottom. This is a way to do that. So thinking about, one thing that I've done when I'm using this tracker is I go through and I list all of the audiences that I want to try to reach. And there are some examples there. And how can I find these people? How can I make sure they're seeing my message? So it might be something like social media, using LinkedIn. Or it could be when I'm pitching stories to media, making sure I'm pitching to outlets that these people are reading. So if I'm trying to reach business owners about a sugary drink tax, for example, look into the local business journal. And then lastly, on that last column is what action do you want them to take? And that'll help you craft the message that you're working on. So if you just want them to learn more and to be informed, that's totally fine. If you want them to follow on social media, all right, that's a reasonable action. If you want them to actually maybe write a lawmaker, write the action down because that'll help you as you work on crafting that message. So those are kind of the base of creating your message. Now let's dive into how you segment those audiences. And no one better can talk about this than Adrienne from Pinnacle Prevention. I'm going to post a couple of links in the chat box while Adrienne is talking, including a story that she did with us on specifically how the messaging in her campaign got her organization double the amount of money they were asking for from the state when it came to SNAP incentives. And that really does come down to effective messaging that made all of that possible. So Adrienne, let me pass it over to you and get those links in the chat box for our participants.
Yeah, thanks, Tara. So as Tara mentioned, my name is Adrienne. I'm the Executive Director with Pinnacle Prevention. And the mission of Pinnacle Prevention is to cultivate a just food system and opportunities for joyful movement. So we're located here in Arizona and we serve Arizona statewide. And our work as a Voices for Healthy Kids grantee has really centered around SNAP incentives and SNAP incentive work here in Arizona. And that work here in Arizona is branded as Double Up Food Bucks Arizona. So you'll see that kind of listed throughout here in my slides. We are a small team. We're a small nonprofit organization of about 8 people. We have one person that is dedicated to communications, but it's really our entire team that is behind that storytelling. And beyond our entire team and our one communications person, it's really leveraging our grassroots network of folks that help to tell the stories and really help to make the stories meaningful for their unique districts and the communities that they're living in every single day. So our storytelling, as Tara mentioned, has really been the heart of our success, especially around securing appropriations for this work here in Arizona. I know Arizona is often all over the national news, and there might be a narrative or a story of what Arizona is, both politically, but we try to center the heart of the people and the work that's happening here and the work that we're doing. So hopefully I can even dispel for some of you some of the myths that you might have heard or believe about Arizona as we go through our storytelling today. So we start with this community profile, and this community profile seems like data and numbers, and data and numbers are important. So kind of the evidence drives that ask forward, but we really create a community profile unique to each legislative district that we're going in, and it's the start of the storytelling. So while we know that the legislators know their districts, oftentimes what we're going in to share the stories of centered around farming and food insecurity is something that they may not be familiar with. So these unique community profiles and the data that you see here helps to tell the story for their district. And we have found that what really gets to the heart, so with the legislators that we're talking to, is not just, well, what is the scope of the problem in Arizona, but what is the scope of the problem and the need within my district? Like, what does this mean for my constituents as well? So these community profiles are the start of that, but next slide. So we start with the community profile to start to tell the story of the district, but we further segment that down then by knowing our audience. And we start to break that down by the values and the needs of the legislator that we're speaking to. It also starts to ebb and flow by the committee that we're speaking to. In our instance, our policy work is often dual assigned to multiple committees. So the message that we would give to the Appropriations Committee, as Tara mentioned, might be centered more on an economic angle versus the message that we give to the Health Committee is really going to center the health, versus the message that we give to the Ag Committee might really center the farm and food insecurity impact as well. And furthermore, that message also ebbs and flows with the point in time in the session. And I think this image here by many of our beloved Michael Scott from The Office really shares the story of the ebb and flow of the messaging. So in Arizona, our session starts in January. It's supposed to be a 100-day session, but our last session went all the way till June 30th, right to the end date of our state fiscal year. And so where we were at with our messaging and how our legislators were responding to our messaging at the beginning of the session in January was very different to where we landed in June and then where we were sitting in July when it was all over. And so when we think about that, before we would go in to meet with legislators, we would start to segment down to, well, what are their values? What are their needs and interests? Do we want to, are they representing more of a rural community? Are they representing more of an urban community? You know, how have they been impacted by COVID as well too, really started to filter in by this ask as well. So all of those moving parts and pieces start to filter in, but really when you think about the point in time, sometimes the best message and the best story that we found was keeping it short and sweet, because maybe people were starting to feel burned out by the way the session was getting dragged on and some of the turmoil that was at play. And so what they saw us as was actually one of the issues that was perceived to be less controversial and actually gave some light to an otherwise very heavy session. So if we could come in with a nice short and sweet message, oftentimes it was well received and something that they were, it was easier for them to vote on and pass in the end. Next slide. So we further take that down to the messengers that we use, and the messengers that we use are equally as important as the message itself. So in each of the committees, as I mentioned, the theme of our messaging might stay centered around the same key areas: economic, families, and health, but the messengers really help to bring in the heart and the minds and the impact of the work that we're doing as well. So the messengers that we use from our grassroots advocates would represent farmers themselves. They were all different ages. Oftentimes they were former SNAP recipients themselves as well, or might still be participating in SNAP. They're market managers. They're folks that are interacting with folks that are experiencing food insecurity every single day. And so you would really see the hearts and the minds of the legislators start to shift and change. You could see it on their face as they were listening to the stories of the messengers as well too. And maybe we had gone in previously to meet with a legislator and they were kind of a firm and a stern no. And then when they got to hear from our messengers actually in the committee meeting, you would see them physically soften, and then you'd see their votes even change after they heard the stories and the impact that way. So I can't speak highly enough about the importance of the messengers. And also, you know, we were so fortunate to have the opportunity amid the pandemic to have folks still join and speak in committee meetings virtually, as you're seeing here. And we know that that wasn't always the opportunity in different parts of the US as well. Next slide. And when all else fails, you know, we are big fans of centering it back down to the humans and the work. And all of the Voices for Healthy Kids work is ultimately about the littles. And we are a family-friendly work site. And so we honor and bring our little ones into all of our meetings and encounters. And that includes coming with us to legislative meetings that you'll see here. And so one of my favorite stories from our successes and our wins is you'll see Jessie on our team that's pictured in one of the photos here with her little one dressed as Harry Potter. And outside of the session, we were going in to meet with the Senate president right before the session was getting ready to begin to make sure that we had her buy-in and her support. And we knew that our issue was something that she might not necessarily be a supporter or a fan of. And she also can be very stern and challenging to work with. But as soon as we walked into her office with our little one here on Halloween, dressed as Harry Potter, you totally saw her demeanor soften and change. And we could really center it back to the humans, and especially the little humans that this was impacting. And she became actually one of the most fervent and passionate supporters. And we were well remembered just because we had a little baby in tow that happened to be dressed like Harry Potter as well. So happy to share all this information with you. Happy to be storytellers and share the stories of the important work that we do. And I will turn it back over to you, Tara.
Thank you so much, Adrienne. If you have any questions for Adrienne, you want to know how she figures out, what's the message for one audience versus another, pop those questions into the chat box. We will definitely get to them before our session ends today. Or if you want to make it more like a conversation at the end, you can come off mute and ask her yourself. Before we get to those questions, though, I would like to introduce you to our next grantee from Kids Forward, Daithi. And Daithi is going to talk a little bit about how it's not just about segmenting your message to make sure that you're able to reach wide audiences, but also making sure that your message is, that you're tailoring the platform that message is hosted on, I should say. If you're confused by what I'm talking about, Daithi, I'm going to toss it over to you. You take over and explain exactly how you've managed to cast an even wider net to make sure people really understand all the good work you guys are doing in Wisconsin.
Thanks, Tara, and thanks, Adrienne. I don't have any baby Harry Potters to try to top that. That was awesome. So like Tara said, I'm going to talk more about segmenting the audience in terms of different ways that people consume media, as opposed to the actual message or the audience or those sorts of things. So Kids Forward has been around for 140 years and has always worked as a anti-poverty organization and to support children and families in our state. But for a long time, we really focused on the data and the research and the kind of high-level legislative advocacy. We've really shifted in the last 5 or 10 years to be more community focused and to be more focused on racial equity and other issues. And as part of that, we've really wanted to make sure that we are elevating community voices, that we are having people with lived experience who are getting a chance to have their voices and their stories heard. And so we've tossed around this idea for a long time of creating a story bank or a library of stories so that those can be heard, not just in person at a legislative hearing, but in other ways using the range of digital media that we have at our disposal. And so we started with the help of, you can go to the next slide, please, with the help of funding from Voices for Healthy Kids. We were able to actually, instead of thinking that we either had the skills or could learn the skills to collect stories and present them, we actually realized it would be much more effective if we use that money to contract with folks that do this for a living, that are professionals in terms of podcasters and storytellers and writers and videographers. And that was kind of a whole new thing. We never, thought of going in that direction, but it was really it was building off the fact that we knew lots of people that listened to podcasts and loved them, or that were involved in storytelling. You might have heard of The Moth. I think it started in New York 10 years or so ago, and it really has gotten a lot of people interested in storytelling. And also looking at blogs and other ways that people present their stories. So what we did is we went out and identified partners and individuals and folks that had stories to tell, who were part of this lived experience. And then depending on just, a variety of reasons why we picked each person, we use different platforms. So there's lots of people that consume media, in a very, they're just clicking through like endless feed on Facebook or whatever. So they're not going to listen to a 45-minute podcast. They're not going to read a long, wonky, article or, find out about this person's story. So we did videos. We did videos that are probably 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. And, even those for some people are kind of long. But, the people that just want to be able to click on a video and have the kind of be entertained and get the story, that was one way. And then on the other extreme, we've been doing podcasts, which could be anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. I'm not someone who listens to podcasts, but I know lots of other people that listen to, 5 or 10 a day. They listen to them, while they're cooking or while they're driving or while they're working or anything. And so we felt like, that was another option. And then sort of an in-between one was there's a project here called Love Wisconsin, which goes around the state and they do interviews with folks of all walks of life and all ages, genders, careers, stories. And they tell their story in kind of a blog format with a picture. And the folks that do that are actually professional writers that do the interview, and then they take the raw material from that interview and they shape it into a story of maybe 800 words. So we used all 3 different ways, and now we've created on our website a multimedia section which features those. A couple things I want to say. First of all, just like Adrienne was saying, it's all about that empathy and that shared emotion and getting at the hearts and minds. So yeah, they're all stories that have something that grabs you. And like Tara said, there also has to be, it can't be just the problem. There has to be some solution and some hope at the end too. One thing that I learned from the professionals is that every story should have a title. And so usually it's a quote from something the person said, but it's kind of something pithy that you remember. And so all our podcasts and all our videos and all our written stories have titles. And so I also wanted to just point out a couple things. I think it's really important when you're hiring professionals, to pay what they're worth. And also to make sure you have attribution, because you're actually purchasing their artistic output. So whether they're a videographer or a sound engineer who's doing podcasts, it's important to credit them. And then third, we always compensate our interviewees, usually with like a $50 gift card for a 30 to 45-minute interview. And I just think that's really important. And I want to just make sure that I say that so you don't think that we're just, taking people's time and story and then running with it. We feel like we're taking their time. We want to pay them for that. I'm just going to read a little bit of one of the stories, and you can actually jump to the last slide because it kind of just gives you an overview of the 3 different platforms. So on the left, that one is a video, a look at the whole family, and then the middle one is actually a full podcast episode interview, and then the last one is one of these written stories with a photo. So I'm just going to read a little bit from one here. This is Tia's story, and about her daughter Ricky, who's about 2 years old. She says, to afford Ricky's childcare, I had to cut my income in half, working part-time in order to qualify for state-assisted daycare. If I would have returned to work full-time, I wouldn't have qualified. This put me in a position where I couldn't afford rent and other life finances. I was able to move back in with my parents, but everybody doesn't have support like that. So that's just a little snippet of what one of those stories sounds like. All right, that's pretty much everything I have to say. I would love it if you checked out some of the stories or podcasts or videos, depending on how you consume media, and we're happy to share them. We want them to be, used any way and any way they can in the service of kids and families and health. And also I'd happy to communicate with folks if they have want to know more about, like, how do you find a videographer, or what did we, I don't know, any of the process parts of this. So, thanks.
Thank you so much, Daithi. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to plop them in the chat. I have also added some links in the chat for you guys, ways that you can contact Adrienne, visit her website, read a little bit about how in the world did she manage to get double what she asked for the SNAP incentive program in Arizona. Or maybe you want to reach out to Daithi, learn a little bit more about how do you diversify your offerings for the way you tell stories on your website or on social media. His contact information along with his organization's website are in the chat. There's also a series of stories that we are running from Kids Forward on the Voices for Healthy Kids website. We did an interview with Daithi, and then in subsequent weeks, we have been releasing those really impactful stories of people who are really advocating for quality childcare in the state. And so you can read all about Daithi and his organization in those links, or reach out to him if you have any direct questions. But for now, let's dive in and talk a little bit to each of them a little bit more about some of these details. So Adrienne, wanted to ask you, how do you figure out, when you're thinking about, I've got this message, we've got to increase SNAP incentives in our state, but I know that maybe more progressive versus more conservative lawmakers might have a different trigger that will make them want to take action, or maybe just different interests that will make them want to take action. How in the world do you figure out the messages that you deliver to diverse groups?
Yeah, I think that's why not just having one message, but centering a few different. So as I mentioned, we had the themes of families, economies, and farmers. And we knew that of those themes, one of those resonated with the legislator that was in front of us. So we would research the legislator before we went in. And even if they, didn't have a connection to families in that way, even if food insecurity wasn't important to them, maybe the economy was. And so really talking about how the impact of using the SNAP dollars in this way had an important economic impact and what that meant for their local community as well. So it did take research in advance of the person that you're talking to and kind of what their legislative agenda and priorities are. And then really just being able to have a few different value sets of framing and messaging kind of in your pocket and ready to go based on the direction that you saw the conversation going.
And when you talk about research, where are you going to learn a little bit more about them?
Yeah, we're fortunate that we have a legislative guide that comes out in Arizona before each session about the legislator. So we definitely rely on those guides. We go directly to their websites just to see what their platform is that they have publicized and that they actively promote out to the community as well. We also, do some sleuthing on social media just to see the types of things that they're liking and engaging with as well too. That helps to give us an idea of where their priorities fall.
Wonderful. And just to kind of add something that I have encouraged when we've done some spokesperson trainings in the past, I've encouraged people go on social media, look at their Twitter account, look at the pictures on their Twitter account. Do they have pics of like their kids or their grandkids? Mm-hmm. Are they a veteran? I just saw a ton of stories, as we were around Veterans Day last week, about food insecurity among military families and among older retired military. So if they have that connection, just kind of looking and seeing what are their interests, and is there a way to maybe relate to them on a more personal level? So that's another tactic that you can take. Okay, so switching gears. So we've kind of figured out how we want to reach different audiences with messages. Once we figure out what those messages are, we've got to reach our audience. And so Daithi, kind of rewinding, how did you identify that you needed to have these different platforms in order to reach people?
Well, I think it really started with stories and not necessarily anything about, kids or health policy or legislation. but just thinking about how stories are integrated in our culture and how that's, the digital platforms that those are happening on. It's kind of funny and, a little serendipitous that a friend of mine who lives across the street actually runs our local moth program. So like she was one of the first people I went to. I said, tell me about stories. Like how did these work? Because she actually teaches classes for people because, when people want to, the people that win on the moth didn't just like show up one day with this, story. They they practice and they, get some training. So, and, you might think at first that that sounds a little fake or a little like, artificial, like that we're, we're not actually using the exact words maybe of that person, but I think that that's, that's what stories are, is there. And, you think about our culture for eons and eons, stories have been so integral to it's, how we learn about ourselves, how we pass on our history, how we communicate. And so thinking about those, those motivations, and then taking that aspect of stories and then bringing it back to our work and really just wanting that authentic voice of that, those real people, because, for too long, I think we were trying to depend on, our childcare champions, our, our leaders, our legislators or whatever, the people with power to make the right decisions, and it wasn't happening. And, kind of like, Adrienne's work as well, when you get in there and you connect with people with that story and they hear it and they, see themselves in it, that's what matters.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's again, just making it relevant for people and making it relatable. And I think the way that you are meeting people where they are is also key. So maybe you're, like you said, you want to binge listen to podcasts. You have that opportunity.
Got it for you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But if you are more of a visual person, you can watch the videos. Do you have any tips for people who are going from having a traditional website that maybe just has their mission, their staff, and a few stories? How do they bridge from where they are to getting a really robust portfolio of stories like what you have in your multimedia section? It can feel overwhelming. So any tips or tricks for people?
Well, I'd say, we started with social media. I mean, that was, we didn't have anything on our actual, organizational website until we've been doing this on social media for a long time. So I think that's the place to start. So on our, on our Facebook and our Twitter and, that kind of stuff. So I think that's what you need. And also, I would say, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be all stuff that you created or co-created. I mean, I think that there's a lot of stuff out there in the public domain that you can use. Like, I mean, I'm happy to share the ones we have, even though they're about Wisconsin, they could still be relevant to somebody in Arizona or in, Washington or Iowa. So.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much for your time. This was really insightful. Again, there are some resources in the chat box for anyone who might be interested in learning a little bit more, including contact information for both Daithi and Adrienne, their websites, some stories that you could read about them on the Voices for Healthy Kids website. And then also you heard Daithi refer to the Moth. If you haven't had a chance to visit the Moth or listen to some of the stories, I strongly encourage you to check it out. It can be a really great tool to figure out how do you tell your story. By listening to really good storytelling, it can really help you advance your own storytelling skills to help you prepare when you're going to go talk to lawmakers or when you're going to go talk to advocates or when you're going to do an interview with the media. So I would really encourage you to give the Moth a try if you haven't already. And they also tour. So there are live events in select cities. I got to see it once and it was definitely a very memorable experience, one that I won't forget. So I encourage you, if you like storytelling and you like listening to really good stories, especially 3 to 5 minute long stories that really kind of grip you, give them a try. I think that if anything, you'll walk away with some better storytelling skills for your own work. So want to just remind everyone, this advocacy training series does not end today. We've got a couple more before we close out the year. Coming up in December, very first Wednesday in December, we have the op-ed and the editorial board. And this is where we'll spend a little bit of time talking about how do you engage with an editorial board, especially in an era where newspapers and other media outlets are on a serious decline. We're seeing shuttering, we're seeing reduced staff. So how in the world do you engage with them when there is such limited staff, and also the problem of COVID, right? In-person meetings have been obliterated. How can you still engage with an editorial board? We'll also go over the key elements of an op-ed and an LTE, and hopefully that'll help you get ready for this upcoming legislative session as you're getting ready to pump out some of those materials. Then the following week on Thursday, we have a 101 on media roundtables. Again, we're hearing from advocacy staff and from grantees that they're having a really hard time with in-person meetings and engaging media. Again, because of those reductions in staff and because of COVID kind of cutting off that availability to meet in person. And so we'll spend the 30 to 45 minutes talking a little bit about how do you engage during an era of COVID to get those stories placed that you think are important. So you'll definitely want to tune into both of those. If you can't, remember, we do record these, so look for those in your inbox. Lastly, the evaluation. As I mentioned at the very beginning, this is how we decide what needs to be improved. What do we keep? What do we change? You can so you get out your cell phone, you go to your camera, you hold your camera up to this little QR code, and let's see if you can see it. Nope, because sorry, I've got the screen blur on, but your Internet Explorer or your Chrome, whatever you use on your phone, will pop up. Select the link. You can go there and fill out the evaluation. I'm also going to go ahead and put this evaluation into the chat box for you. We would appreciate any feedback that you might have. Again, thank you so much for joining, for participating, for learning with us. Adrienne and Daithi, I want to extend a very, very grateful, wholehearted thank you for sharing your insider tips with our attendees. Look for these slides and the recording in your inbox within the next week. And please don't be a stranger. Feel free to reach out to us or our presenters who are on the call today. Thanks so much, and I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Tara. Thanks, Andrea.
Bye.